Good evening, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. Made it to the end of another work week, and we've got a little bit of Seahawks news that I want to briefly go over here. First, though, look for me on Twitch tonight. Plan on doing Lego Star Wars with my friend, and I plan on going a long time tonight. We're probably going to get all the way through Rise of Skywalker and start looping back through the free play sections of the early episodes, trying to get to 100% basically. So tonight we should be finishing the game and start on our quest to at least get as close to 100% as we can. So keep an eye out for that. Should be going live on it sometime around 7:45 or something like that. Rough estimate. It's possible that I end up streaming something else for a little bit before. I don't know yet, but we'll see. So, okay, that out of the way. Let's take a look at something a little interesting here. The main headline of Seahawks news for today concerns Sean Desai. So, in previous days, what I've said is basically Sean Desai is either going to go to Minnesota as the DC or he's going to stay in Seattle. And basically, Minnesota was going to try to get Evero from Denver, and if they couldn't get Evero, they would get Desai. So basically, I was saying we needed the Evero domino to fall, and then we could figure out what happens with Desai. Well, that's still the case, but the circumstances have changed just a little bit here. We have this tweet from Mike Kliss, and this has been backed up by other sources. The Broncos have requested an interview with Sean Desai for their DC spot, and Desai has now withdrawn consideration for the Minnesota DC job. So Desai will not be going to Minnesota, despite interviewing with them. But it looks like that's not going to happen. It looks like now it's either going to be Denver as a DC or he stays in Seattle as an associate head coach. So we're still waiting on Evero because Denver right now is probably trying to keep Evero in town as a DC. And Evero needs to make a decision. Does he want to stay in Denver? Does he want to get a head coaching job somewhere if there is a head coaching job for him? Like, I think Indy would still take him. Maybe Arizona would still take him, although he might not take Arizona with their crappy situation. And if he can only stay as a DC, would he rather do it in Minnesota or Denver? If Evero goes somewhere else, then I think Denver is going to get Desai. And if Denver manages to keep Evero for one more year, because Fangio's off the market, by the way, he has officially gone to Miami, I think Desai stays in Seattle. So it's still the Evero domino needs to fall, but it'll fall a different way. So this is kind of interesting. Obviously, we don't have any direct connection to Denver anymore in terms of like a concrete, like we want them to lose because of this, the way we did last year. Still kind of interesting to see what they do over there because they're trying so many bold things, right? They make the Wilson trade. It's a disaster. They're going to double down by trying to bring in the best head coach they can get, trading more stuff to bring him in. And then they attempted to build a coaching super team by bringing in Fangio. It didn't work, but obviously Sean Desai is not Vic Fangio, not even close. He's not even in the same universe. In fact, Sean Desai's resume is, in many ways, a little bit thin here. Like, he had a pretty good year in Chicago as a DC, that one year where they were like sixth in yards allowed. But it was just the 1 year, and then he came to Seattle, and our defense was really bad. I still like him. I still think he's good. I still think he's clearly desirable. And to the people out there who don't think Desai is good or don't like him or think he's part of the problem here in Seattle, I would suggest that you look at how many teams are valuing Desai, how many interviews he's gotten during this process. I think he's been looked at by, what is it now, Miami, Cleveland, Minnesota, now Denver. I don't think you'd be seeing that if Desai was considered some complete, was actually a bad coach. I don't think you'd be seeing that much interest in him. Now, obviously, I might not say that if he was somebody with a long track record of being a coach in the NFL. We see guys who keep their job in the NFL as a coach for long periods of time despite bad results because people get it into their head that they're good, therefore they stick around forever. We see this with a guy like Raheem Morris. I think it's Raheem Morris is his name. A guy who went years, like close to a decade, maybe even more than a decade, without being attached to a good defense, and yet still kept getting work, and people still thought he was one of the best coaches in the league despite not producing results. Desai is not like that. Desai is young, Desai hasn't been around that long, and people still really, really like him, and he's clearly desirable to a lot of these teams. So I maintain that Desai's good. He's going to be a positive influence on this team if he stays here, and he'll probably do pretty well in Denver if he goes over there. But that is probably the main headline for today. Either Sean Desai is going to be the new defensive coordinator in Denver, or he's going to stay in Seattle. I don't think he could go back on his withdrawing from consideration of the Minnesota job. I guess anything can happen, right? Like, if Fangio was considering becoming the DC in Denver, then I guess anything's possible, but seems kind of unlikely. So we'll have to see what happens there. The only other main piece of news would be what Geno Smith said at the Pro Bowl earlier today. Basically, he said that the contract talks with the Seahawks are ongoing. He thinks it's looking good, and he is currently confident that he will re-sign with the Seahawks without hitting free agency, which is always a little bit of a dicey proposition, right? Because in theory, if the player gets to free agency, he'll get to find out what he's actually worth. Sorry if you can hear the leaf blower. We had a storm here last night, and there's crap everywhere, and we're trying to get it cleared up. But, yeah. If you take Geno at his word, and you think that he's telling the truth, and you think what he says has merit, then it's probably not going to be a thing where Geno figures out his exact actual value on the market and gets a contract from Seattle based off of that. Meaning, well, it could end up being a lot more than he would have gotten, but it could also end up being less than he would have gotten. I have maintained this whole time that this is a seller's market right now for quarterbacks. If you have something to hang your hat on, you're going to get paid, especially when options are getting taken off the table, like Brady retiring, like Brock Purdy now probably missing an entire calendar year, like possibly... We'll see what happens with, like, Aaron Rodgers. What if Aaron Rodgers takes himself off the board and retires? Then it's another thing where it's like, oh, that's one less guy who can go around this league right now. So you're going to see, I believe, quarterbacks maximize what they can get on the market because it is a seller's market for quarterback. So I've maintained all along that you're looking at about $35 million a year for Geno. PFF and Spotrac both think it'll be more, and it wouldn't shock me if it was. That's the way things go right now, guys. I'm pretty indifferent at this point to it, though. I'll say that. If we bring back Geno for a big contract, that's fine. I get it. I think it can work. If we tag and trade Geno, that's fine. I think that can work too. I'm kind of indifferent here. But for whatever it's worth, we did get a report yesterday, and I talked about this briefly yesterday, or excuse me, not yesterday, earlier today, that Geno apparently was offered 3 years, $90 million, and turned it down. So, yeah, if you think it's going to get done for $30 million or less, if that report is true, you can kind of forget about it. I don't think he's going to be bullied into taking something that he's turning down at this stage. You're supposed to work towards a common ground here. You're not supposed to make him an offer, have it refused, and then go, no, we're standing right here, and if, we're not moving. That's probably not how it's going to work. But Geno thinks it's going to happen, so we'll see if he ends up being correct here. I guess what else would he say? But I think there's some reason to believe that he's telling the truth. All right, see you guys later. See you on Twitch tonight. Go Hawks. Peace out.